How does a law that's designed to protect the entire planet get torn apart behind closed doors? Well, today we're going to dive into a story that comes from a huge trove of leaked documents, and they reveal a secret campaign by some of the world's biggest corporations to basically kill a landmark piece of EU climate legislation, all from the shadows.
This right here, this quote really says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly sets up the fight we're about to unpack. On one side, you've got this public, democratic process, and on the other, a secret backroom campaign by corporate giants designed to tear the whole thing down.
All right, so what was this law? What was so important about it that it drew this kind of intense hidden opposition? To really get what was going on, you have to understand what was on the table.
So, it's officially called the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, or CSDD. Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful. But the idea behind it? Actually pretty simple. It was supposed to be a new rulebook for big companies. And for the first time ever, it would make them legally responsible for things like environmental damage or human rights abuses, anywhere in their global supply chains.
Think about it. The goal was so clear. If a company's product was connected to, say, deforestation, or major pollution, or even forced labor, even if it was happening thousands of miles away through a totally different company, that first company could be held accountable in a European court. This was a potential game changer for corporate responsibility.
But while all this was being debated out in the open, a very secretive group was forming to fight it. They gave themselves a pretty harmless-sounding name, the Competitiveness Roundtable, but behind that name was a powerful and incredibly focused alliance.
And just take a look at who was in the room. This list is basically a who's who of global heavy hitters. The leaks show the group was dominated by American fossil fuel giants like ExxonMobil, Chevron, and Koch Industries, but it didn't stop there. You've also got chemical giants like Dow, major financial players. This was a coalition of titans, not just some casual industry chat.
And this wasn't some informal get-together either. Their entire campaign was professionally organized. It was run by Teneo, a huge public relations firm in the US that's well known for working with fossil fuel interests. So right from the start, this was a calculated, strategic operation.
So the big question is, how did they pull it off? Well, the leaked documents reveal this incredibly sophisticated and honestly comprehensive plan of attack. They didn't just go after one little part of the system, they went after the entire legislative process from every angle you can imagine.
The documents basically lay out their entire playbook. First, go after the EU Council and try to split up the member countries. Next, work to sideline key departments in the EU Commission. At the same time, you influence the EU Parliament. And then, you take it global. You get the US government involved and even mobilize other countries to apply pressure from the outside. A truly full-court press.
And you can see their strategy in their own words. For the EU Council, the mission was literally, quote, to divide and conquer. The whole idea was to pit European governments against each other, to break up any kind of unified front so they could get the key climate parts of the law stripped out.
Their plan for the European Parliament was just as bold. The documents spell it out. Their goal was to break the traditional centrist majority. They wanted to push the big, influential center-right party into an alliance with far-right groups. And why? To secure what the Roundtable itself called the most extreme position against the law.
And the pressure campaign didn't stop in Brussels. Oh no. The Roundtable actively worked with American diplomats to frame this European environmental law as a key barrier to any future trade deals between the US and the EU. They were literally turning a climate law into a weapon for trade negotiations.
And get this, here's a perfect example of how they manufactured influence. The documents show the Roundtable talked about paying a Brussels think tank 185,000 euros. The job? Produce a research report that would just happen to perfectly mirror the Roundtable's arguments and undermine the EU's own data. And of course, the final report never mentioned who paid for it.
Okay, so we've seen the players, we've seen the secret playbook, which brings us to the most important question of all. After all that secretive, coordinated effort, did it actually work? Did they manage to change the law? Well, when you look at what happened, the results are stark. The original law had really strong climate obligations. In the final version, they were delayed and seriously weakened. That key part about EU-wide civil liability, where victims could actually sue companies, completely scrapped, gone. Rules that were supposed to cover the entire supply chain, they were cut way back to cover only direct suppliers.
And here it is. Here's the crucial link. The changes that basically gutted the law came right after personal interventions from the leaders of Germany and France. And what were they pushing for? The exact same changes that this secretive competitiveness roundtable had been lobbying for all along. The alignment is just undeniable.
So let's just zoom out for a second here, because this story is about way more than just one law. It really raises these fundamental questions about who has the power and how our laws actually get made. When you strip it all away, here's what the leaks show. A tiny, unelected, and secret group of incredibly powerful corporations, many of them not even based in the EU, systematically worked to take apart a public law. A law that was designed to protect people and the planet. And they did it quietly, efficiently, and for one reason: to serve their own bottom line.
And that really leaves us with this one final nagging question. This whole campaign was built to influence a democratic process while staying completely invisible to the public it affects. So it makes you wonder, when powerful interests can work so effectively from the shadows, who are our laws actually being written for?